Good morning, everybody. Indeed, a pleasure to be here with all of you this morning. I was talking with Ajay a couple of days back in terms of the profile of the delegates, participants this morning, and what is it that would be relevant for me to share my thoughts and experience upon. And Ajay and I discussed a few options. And what Ajay suggested would be a good one would be to talk about what is it the institutes can do better than what they do currently to equip and get the students ready for employment. So just to sort of set the context, I know this morning D.N. Reddy and then Dr. B.R. Mohan Reddy did speak about the big picture, right? The reality that all of us, I think, sometimes do miss out is that in India today, unfortunately, that's the word I use, unfortunately, there is too much emphasis in engineering colleges on just the IT sector. Right? Because of this unfortunate emphasis and the romanticism associated with IT, maybe because a decade ago it provided a lot of opportunities to go abroad. Probably a decade ago it provided what I would call as the highest average package compared to other industries. The romanticism continues. But today, if you really see, in my personal opinion, IT is no longer the numero uno as far as career opportunities are concerned. It continues to be very stable, no question about it. It's not dropping down. It's just that, fortunately for India, a lot of other sectors are picking up. And this I consistently see is a fact that is jobbed by most engineering colleges and most engineering faculty. Right? If you look at the IT industry alone, in the last 11 years, almost from 2000 till about last year, we have grown at an annual compounded growth rate of more than 22% consistently. This is quite an unbelievable growth rate for such a long period. And the reality is that when you have such wonderful growth rate in any one geography, in any one industry vertical, you are bound to have talent gap. Period. You cannot provide manpower for a growing industry at 22%. What you can provide is bodies, but what you cannot provide is a skill set, and that's where we are today. And shouldn't be surprised for anybody of us. Right? So if I have to look at the point of what the engineering college can do better and what the faculty can do better, the things that come to my mind is, it's great to read newspapers. I read it every day. But you have to think about what you're reading and understand how much is fact and how much is fiction. Even today, most newspapers write only about the IT growth industry. They do not write so much about the telecom. They do not write so much about the retail. They do not write so much about the engineering services. They do not write so much about the defense, the aerospace, and every one segment. And of course, education itself is a booming industry. Healthcare is a booming industry. We don't get as much conversation happening about this as we get about IT. That is an area I think where the institutes and faculty members have to start doing a little more homework. And this is something which I can feel very comfortable to say, because at one point of time I had played the role of faculty, not in the traditional sense that you people play engineering colleges. I just happened to be, start my career with Indian Air Force, and when I was going through the initial training with Indian Air Force, I ended up being the gold medalist in the training program, and 2 years into the field, they needed a faculty member. So they just called me back as a faculty member. And for the first 3 months, I used to spend more hours in the library than any of my students. And most of my students, at least reasonable sample of students, are actually people with probably 20 years of experience in the Indian Air Force. And some with 5 years experience, some were just, very new joining officers and airmen. But it was a cross-section. And some of them used to ask me, look, we are the ones who come for training. Why the hell are you kind of, spend so many hours in the library? And my response was, learning is very easy. Because you learn at your pace, you learn what you want to learn. But when you have to express yourself, you have to help somebody else to learn, it's much more difficult. I said, instead of being a gold medalist in my training days when I was a trainee, I did not get as many questions in my mind as I get today when I'm trying to prepare for a class. Because when I was a trainee, I only prepared for the questions that come naturally to my mind. But when I'm going to a class to help somebody to learn, I have to start thinking in terms of there is 30 people in the class, there is 100 people in the class. How differently are the 100 people I think? How many more hundreds of questions these people will come up with? Am I prepared for them or not? That is where I think as the faculty members, as the institute, you have to do definitely more homework in terms of what is happening in the space. Right? Today the reality is that Government of India has put its foot down and said that there has to be a close to 30% localization of content in every defense contract give out, which is forcing multiple large global companies to either partner in India or to set up their own in-house centers in India. Because for every $4 billion, $10 billion, $1 billion contract that these companies win from the Indian defense sector, it's inevitable that 30% of the content and delivery that they get has to be sourced from India. That is forcing a huge amount of employment opportunity out there. That is forcing a huge amount of knowledge and domain expertise to develop within India. And that's a huge, huge opportunity. Look at infrastructure. If you look at the last 5 years of the foreign direct investments into India, the maximum investments have not gone into IT. IT, unfortunately, in spite of the growth rate that you talk about, from FDA perspective, is a very, very, very poor cousin. There is very little FDA investment in India. I'm not saying it's zero, but it's very, very minimal. Contrarily, one of the highest FDA investments that you see in India is actually in infrastructure. Look at the number of ports. Look at it. If every one of you as engineering faculty members are going to encourage you to try private jobs, can you and I live in India? How many of us are willing to live in India with going all problems? Not just one. Which means that we have to go and build bridges, go and build ports. We have to know mechanical engineers and do what they're meant to be doing. We have to tell our engineers to go and do infrastructure building, not just sit and write software code. We need a combination. And step back, look at the IT industry is not a core industry. IT industry is what we call a derivative industry. IT industry is delivering software solutions products for banking, insurance, healthcare, automobile, manufacturing, retail. Which means that this is a derivative industry, and if the core industries are not growing, this industry is dead, pretty much. So therefore, it is actually a disadvantage for us to win away the students of the next generation away from the core segment. That's one area where I think the faculty members can raise the flag, tell the students, educate them more in terms of the opportunities in various segments. And in the morning we were talking about employment factor. The reality is that 5 years back, the employment factor was about 5%. When you look at purely the IT industry alone, say, Sanjay has made, I don't know if it's 9 or 8, or maybe it's 3, I don't know. Again, it's a viewpoint as how you talk about employability. The way employability is to be calculated, even today, the way we calculate employability is that how many students are giving an offer in the industry segment. But truly speaking, if you were to step back and say, is the number of people getting offers, jobs, is that to be termed as employable? Maybe yes, maybe no. Because when the industry is hiring these people, the standard is anywhere from 3 to 4 months of intense classroom training for the students. Most people look at the job say that, gosh, I'm spending more effort in this 4 months than the last 4 years of my engineering graduation. So, the question is, if they had to train for 4 months, then should they be counted as employable or not? Should they be employed or not? It's a huge question mark, right? And then, to more of a narrow field of IT alone, which I've spent more than a decade now, how many institutes actually make an effort to understand what IT wants? I'm just raising questions. I'm quite put you on the spot. I don't mean to be disrespectful to any of you, please, right? But I'm just trying to kind of raise some questions. If the institutes constantly companies saying that come for hiring, give projects to my students, how many companies do you think are going to be happy to invite you? Because you're only talking about one conversation. This is what I want as an engineering college. I want my students to be placed. I want my students to be given projects. Why should I should do it? When we go out as companies to make business, are we kind of only doing business because we happen to be there? Even the best breed of the companies have to go through a sales cycle. Depending on industry segment, depending on complexity of what you work on, the cycle of sale could be anywhere from 3 months to even 18 months. Because you have to consistently work with your target audience or your target sales force and your sort of target market. Work with them, develop credibility, develop trust, make them understand and believe that you can deliver what they want, be it a product or be it a service.